Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Hi.
Hello, I see Saint and Suki in the chat. Welcome in. How are you guys doing? Kiseki!
Oh my
Oh
god,
my
hi
goodness!
guys.
How are you doing? Oh, the chat. The chat just deleted itself.
Oh, I just saw that.
It got all flustered because of Kiseki joining. Welcome in. Today is gonna be a special and fun and scary stream. Help the thunder. Do you wanna introduce yourself just in case, LIFEN?
Oh, of course. Hello. My name is LIFEN Xiao, and I'm the cat who jumped over the moon, but for Halloween, I'm a jiangxi. So I'm a jumping zombie.
I love it. Here, I will shout out your channel. So if you aren't
Thank
following LIFEN
you.
already, please do. And please look forward to her PC era. She'll have a lot in
Soon.
store. Hi! The ghosty stopper, so cute. You guys are both adorable. No, we're scary. You should fear
No.
us. You won't be thinking we're cute when we start reading these
Bless you,
stories.
bless you, bless you.
Bless you. Hello, Eddie. Welcome in. Are you guys ready? You'll be shaking in your boots. Your fur is gonna stand up, and your tail will stick out of fear. So scared. Ah, you should be. Oh yeah, and I think, okay, the asset command should still work. It's not the trick or treat asset, it's something else, but I still buy the same person, Black Clothes, and I love their work, so if you're interested in their assets, please check them out and support. Cat
It's
kiss.
so cute.
Yes. Okay, so I guess I will be handing it over to LIFEN first, but just to sort of summarize, we paw picked, or in LIFEN's case, hoof picked some stories. I have some creepypasta. She has some stories from the subreddit No Sleep. And we're gonna be taking turns reading it out to you guys. We might not read out the chat until we finish reading the actual story. So keep that in mind. I also turned off a lot of the what is it called? The redeems. Just so we don't get interrupted and to keep that immersion. PP pasta. I did not say that until now. Until now. I I would be sick. But yeah. Okay, so get cozy, get comfortable, and get safe, I guess, because what you're about to hear is going to frighten you. Dun dun dun. I'll hand it over to LIFEN whenever you're ready, okay?
Of course, I'm ready whenever.
Okay, bye guys.
Oh, okay. The poster read happiness sold in glass jars, call today, and underneath the text was a phone number. I was walking home from a long, exhausting day of work when I caught a glimpse of the paper stapled on an old telephone pole. I took a picture of it, thinking it was amusing. I was going to show my wife once I got to our apartment, and I was caught up with chores and forgot about it. Dinner, dishes, laundry, packing a snack for our daughter, putting her to bed, then putting her toys away that she had left out in the living room. Every night, it was the same routine. The next day, I awoke sleeping back to back with my wife. I always had to get up earlier than she did for my job, so I quietly got ready for the day and headed out the door. At work, I was updating the company's latest expense report. Most days were similar to this one. They were basically paying me to stare at a computer for 9 hours a day and input a couple of numbers into a spreadsheet. I finished my work very quickly, so I decided to head out of the office early. It also helped that it was Friday, and a lot of people leave early at the end of the week. On my walk back, I was thinking of what my life had become. I did this often. I always dreamed of traveling when I was younger. I wanted to drive across the country or solo backpack across Europe. Then I met Kelsey. Don't get me wrong, I loved Kelsey. I mean, I still do. We just don't have that spark anymore. When you meet someone and get in a relationship, whether it's meant to be or not, some of your personal life plans have to be put on hold. And then that relationship turns into marriage, and then you have a baby, then you have to enroll your daughter in a preschool, then you have to get a better paying job and work more hours and blah blah blah. I'm not trying to throw a pity party for myself. I'm just saying I wasn't exactly content with where I was in my life. I wouldn't have referred to myself as a happy person. As I took the same route home that I did every day to work and back, I walked by the same poster I had passed the day before. I don't know why. I really don't. But I decided to call the number. I figured it would be some joke. Maybe someone just picks up and says, "I love you," on the other end and then hangs up. Or maybe it's a line to a sex worker. I had no idea what to expect. I called. It only rang once before someone picked up. "Hello?" a woman said. Hi. I'm calling about your poster? Your ad? Oh, awesome," she said calmly. "When do you want to pick it up?" "Pick what up?" "The jar," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Oh, of course, I realized then that I had left work early without telling Kelsey, so I could just go pick it up now, and then she'd be none the wiser." "What exactly is it that you're selling?" "I just told you. It's happiness in a glass jar, like the poster said. Happiness keeps best in glass jars. They're more durable than, say, a plastic bag." Okay. "Should we meet somewhere?" "For sure. I don't want you to end up being a creep or something, so let's go to a public space." The public space we decided on was a Starbucks parking lot, a little over a mile away from me. Now, I didn't think I was really going to be buying a jar of happiness or whatever. I was 99% sure she was going to sell me drugs. Maybe heroin would be in the jar. I remember thinking, oh no, happiness is probably a nickname for some street drug and I'm going to do a drug deal. What if she's a cop? Am I going to get arrested? But something inside me told me to keep walking, and so I did. And I stood outside and texted her. "I'm here." "Cool. Be there in a sec." "What are you driving?" "Silver Camry." And as her final text came through, I saw her car pull in. She took a spot not too far from where I stood. I could see there was no one else in the car, which put my kidnapping fear to rest. She opened the door and stood on the pavement, looking around until her eyes met mine, and I gave her a little nod of acknowledgement. She simply responded by waving her hand, gesturing for me to come over to her car, so I did. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with curly golden hair. Her skin was pale and contrasted with the all-black outfit she was wearing. I thought she looked like Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz had put on a Wicked Witch's clothes. "Nice day out," she said as a greeting. "Oh, yeah, it is. I hadn't really paid much attention to it." "You were the one who called about the jar, right?" "Yeah, that was me." "Cool, well, here you go." She handed me a small glass mason jar. It could have been more than 2 inches tall. Inside of it was a light, not a light bulb, just light. It was like someone bottled up sunshine. It glowed even in the mid-afternoon daylight. It looked like a tiny sun, or a tiny universe, existing in this little crystal-walled home. I was admiring it with no attempt to hide the awe on my face. "Pretty rad, isn't it?" What is?" "You asked that, like, 3 different times, I think." My answer's still the same. It's happiness. Happiness in a glass jar. "What do I do with it?" "Keep it," she said simply. "If you have any problems, shoot me a text." And she started to get into her car. "Wait," I said. "I thought you were selling this. How much is it?" "Oh, don't worry, man," she said with a smile. "You'll pay." She closed the door and I stepped out of her way as she backed up and then drove off. What the hell had just happened? What was I holding? I looked at the jar again. Its radiance was simply mesmerizing. I put it in my pocket and I could see the glow slightly through my pants. I began to walk home. What was just a nice, sunny day quickly turned into a rainy one with clouds wrapping the sky. It was not forecasted that it would rain, or else I would have ridden the bus or subway to work that day. I jogged home, trying to not get drenched. I finally found shelter once I made it to my apartment building. Walked up to my door and found that my key wasn't on my key ring anymore. Shit, can't believe I lost it again, I thought. I knocked on the door and said in a somewhat loud voice, "Hey babe, it's me. I don't know what happened to my key." I heard the door being unlocked from the other side. When the door opened, I was greeted by a large, heavy-set man with greasy hair and an unkempt goatee. He said, I think you got the wrong number, bud." "Oh," I said, disoriented. "My bad. Sorry, have a good one." He let out a chuckle as he closed the door. Apartment 33. I know that was my apartment. I know it was. I've been in apartment 33 for 5 years now. But that was not my apartment. From what I could see inside, all the furniture was different. It was all painted a different color. It was all wrong. I felt like I'd hit my head and was drugged. In that moment, nothing made sense. I pulled out my phone to call Kelsey so she could calm me down and tell me I was just confused for a second. But her contact wasn't in my phone. In fact, nothing was in my phone. I had no messages with her. No previous calls, no pictures. It was like my phone reset itself to its factory settings. Did that girl somehow switch my phone out when I wasn't looking? I would have just dialed Kelsey's number manually, but I couldn't quite remember it. I had known it by heart before, but not anymore. I needed to get back to the office. I had all my contacts backed up on my work computer. Since it was still raining, I hopped on the bus, which had a stop right in front of the apartment complex. I rode downtown toward my office, the whole time staring at my wet shoes, wondering what the hell was going on. We have a keycard access to our building, so only authorized personnel can get inside. I always keep my access card in my wallet always, but surprise, surprise, it wasn't there. I buzzed into the speaker we had for guests with appointments or employees as a backup in case anyone forgot their card. "Hey, this is Tim. I must have lost my card. My employee number is..." I stopped as I drew a blank. A voice came through the speaker. "Tim, you got cut out. What's your employee number?" I can't remember. That's fine. Just tell me your full name and department." Finance. I'm in finance. My name is Tim Brooks." "One sec." About 30 seconds later, the man spoke to me again. "We don't have a Tim Brooks working in this building. Did you have an appointment with someone?" I backed up in surprise, almost tripping on my own feet. I had just been in that office an hour or two ago. What was happening to me? I felt like I was getting Alzheimer's, but only going through every stage in one day. I stared at my hands, unsure if I was in the right body. I felt like the world around me was disintegrating. I wasn't in control. I was merely sitting inside someone else's head, watching the world through their eyes. Just then, I got a text. I recognized the number immediately. It was that girl, the one who gave me the jar. I'd forgotten all about it until I got her text. "Hey, how's it going?" I looked at my phone, dumbfounded. It made me angry. She was so nonchalant about this. She knew what was going on. She had done this somehow. "What the hell did you do to me?" "Well, the worst is yet to come." I was astronomically close to just chucking my phone as far as I could in frustration. I took the jar out of my pocket. Oh gosh. It looked unchanged, still glowing just as bright. "What the fuck did you do?" I yelled at the jar, realizing I probably looked like a lunatic. As I stared at its glistening glass, I realized something. I didn't know what my wife's face looked like anymore. I knew her name. Well, I know it started with a K, or maybe a C? I couldn't picture in my mind. I knew I had a wife. I knew I did. Yes, because I had a daughter. I had a wife and a daughter. I just couldn't remember their faces then, or their names. or their birthdays, or any memories I had with them. I know they existed. They did exist. I had just seen them that morning, right? I couldn't remember how she looked or what she smelled like. What was our first date? We had a wedding, right? What about our first kiss? Or my daughter? Or was it my son? Maybe I didn't even have a kid. But my wife, or my girlfriend, she was real. I knew she was. The thought was tearing me apart. I couldn't see her in my head. I couldn't even recall a single fact about her. I was standing outside of the same building, but I was unsure why I was. Did I work there? I must work somewhere. The rain was accompanied by a chilly wind now. It was whipping at my face, making my nose and my cheeks sting. I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to be warm. I wanted to go into a shitty office job that kept the roof over my head. I wanted it all. I was soaking wet. I was miserable. I couldn't remember my parents or my children. Did I even have friends? Why was I in the rain? I looked down at my hand. I was still clutching the jar. The only memory of my life I could concretely remember was the girl giving it to me, telling me it was happiness. It did not bring happiness. It brought pain. It brought suffering. I was more miserable in that moment than I'd ever been. Then my phone buzzed. Break the jar, Tim. I looked at my other hand. With the setting sun and the rainy sky, I swear the jar glowed brighter than any streetlight near me. I didn't break it because I was following her instruction. I broke it because I was angry. I broke it because I was upset. I needed a release. I raised my arm above my head and brought it down in one swift motion, shattering the jar on the concrete beneath my feet. That dark, chilly air accompanying the rain spread away like it was the shockwave of a bomb going off, and I was at the epicenter. I saw the warm yellow light from inside the jar rapidly spreading across the ground and ascending into the sky. It was as if I was watching the beginnings of the universe being created, like God had just snapped his fingers and said, "Let there be light." I was engulfed in it. I could no longer see the street or rain or anything dark. I felt like I was plummeting into a star going faster than the speed of light. It felt like sitting in front of a fire on a cold winter's night, but that warmth was covering every inch of my body. And then I blinked. Immediately, I could feel the sheets beneath me, and my back barely touching my wife's. I was staring out at the window. The morning light drenched through the glass and gleamed on my face. I stood from bed and grabbed my phone. It was Friday morning, and I had one text. "Let me know if you ever need another jar." I called in sick to work, snuck into my daughter's room, greeted her with a kiss, and told her she didn't have to go to preschool today. We were going to have a family day. She smiled, stretched out her arms with a yawn before curling up and falling back asleep. I got back in bed and squeezed my wife tightly. I didn't let go for hours. Our daughter came into our room and woke us up eventually. She's jumping on the bed, shouting for us to wake up. Yesterday, I may have found a lot of things annoying or monotonous or dull, but not today. Today, I pulled her under the covers in between me and Kelsey. Today was going to be a good day. Today, I was happy. All right, that's the first one.
That was so
but
good.
The title was She Sells Happiness in a Jar. My mouth is so dry.
Oh no, please hydrate.
Hi, Shinya.
Hello, Shinya. Happy to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Yeah, it was shockingly wholesome. Eddie pointed out she made him forget everything so he would appreciate what he had. Exactly. Good read, LIFEN. That was our very first one too. I sent the wrong link and I only realized like maybe like 40% in. And I was like,
it's okay.
I read the link and I was like, that is not what this story is about. And then I realized.
It's alright.
It's okay, yeah. We decided to start off with something more lighthearted because the rest is not. So, LIFEN had chosen no sleep stories and I chose creepypastas. So, it's going to be my turn to read to you. The night is an ocean. Okay, let's go. The night is an ocean in which every star in the universe is but an island. The ocean's waves lap over the earth on a 24-hour cycle. Its tides roll in and out at a rate of once per year. And the ocean carries things in its depths, things you would not believe. Every so often, something meant for deeper waters finds itself beached here. We mistake them for unhappy dreams because we cannot process their reality. Usually, they suffocate in daylight, thrashing in their death throes and expiring in a paroxysm of terror. That, at least, we can feel. Some find refuge in what puddles of earthly night they can find. Basements, closets, the depths of the forest, the space under your bed. Children are aware of them, though their parents are not. Children have not learned what is impossible. In the dark places of the world, they may persist for years or centuries, every so often going abroad with the setting of the sun, every so often ensnaring a victim. How many stories have you heard of demons and vampires, ghosts and monsters, phantoms and hags, and the things that go bump in the night? Each one is a fable, and yet each one contains some feature of that which lurks in the dark. Our brains cannot process them, nor our eyes see without light, and so we fill in the details. Our mythologies give them form, and those forms change over time. Once a troll, then a devil, now a black-eyed child. Many are the masks of nightmare. Their shapes and names evolve to fit our fashions, but they themselves remain ever the same. How many times have you seen a shadow out of the corner of your eye, one that was not there when you turned to look? How many times have you lain paralyzed in bed, certain that something was with you in the room? And how many times have you awoken from a nightmare, nigh unable to convince yourself that it wasn't real? It was real. It's always real. Every nightmare you've ever had, every half-remembered terror of your childhood, every razor-toothed, snarling-jawed, dead-eyed thing that has ever haunted your dreams is real. And it is your fortune that most of the time, that they are just passing by. They can afford to be patient. For the night is ancient. The night was already ancient long before the first day. And 1 billion years before the first terrestrial life writhed out of the primordial ooze, it was already there, watching. Out of its trillion eyes, the night saw our ancestors descend from the trees. When early humans first harnessed fire, it stood just outside of the warm circle of light, waiting. And when we built our cities, wired them up with electric light, and declared that we had won our final victory over the darkness, the night smiled silently in its infinitude. For the night will still be here when our cities crumble, when the last street lamp goes dead, when the last star in heaven burns down to a cold ember. The night will win. The islands of light will each sink into their turn beneath the ocean. And when that time comes, when the dark ocean drowns the world, the night's victorious children will run rampant, gorging themselves with abandon. And it is then, and only then, that we will see the true face of the nightmare. Yay, we finished! This one was called The Night is an Ocean. I found it.
That one was really good.
Yeah, me and Lipa were talking about really liking this one. It's short, but it's quite effective. I think.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think anybody can relate to the stuff that's mentioned in it. I like it a lot. You are both so good at reading. So true. You read that well. Thank you. Thank you so
Myxie did
much.
such a good job.
Thank you. I know, like, I think my selections are more on the shorter side, so I'm tapping into the inner theater kid.
I
Yeah,
chose one really, really long one, so I hope I'll be able to read it.
you can. I believe in you. And we're gonna hand it over to you right now. Are you ready to go,
Oh,
Ethan?
okay. I am.
Yeah, we're gonna be on story 3. Okay.
This one is a little bit short, but I'm reading I opened my missing son's journal and now I'm not sure what to do. A few years ago, my son went missing, and our family is broken because of it. We haven't had enough emotional strength to go through his room until now because we had hoped he was still alive, but I doubt it. I found his journal under his bed, with dust piled on top, and I decided to look through and read some of the pages, and I found one that said, "Today, when I was cleaning out my closet, I tripped and fell into this weird place. It's not my home, but I recognize it. It has moldy carpet and old walls. It seems endless. I don't know how to get out. I've been walking around for a while and I keep hearing things like whispers, but it's not coming from people I know that much. I found a ladder. Maybe I can get out of here. I'm not out. It looks like a child's party, but it's empty. I found a child's toy. I'll take it with me. Maybe it's useful. I see I see creatures holding balloons, but their faces look like smiley faces. I'm hiding from one right now. It chased me. I'm scared of what to do now. I'm safe now. I found an exit. I'm not out yet, but place looks safer. It's a house. Hello Kitty items are everywhere, and its walls are baby pink. I see something. It's a tall shadow. I'm scared. How do I get out of this house? I see no exits here. I've looked in every nook and cranny. The shadow creature saw my struggle and pointed to a cute item. I handed it to them, and now I'm at an old bookstore area? There's a sign saying the end. Maybe I've made it out. It lied. I can't exit this place. I don't know how. Maybe I should have just stayed at that pink house. I I see a smiling face but no head or body. It's just staring at me. I have to run. I ran and tripped again. I'm in this hallway with red lights, and there are things behind me. I really have to run. I made it out of the red hallway, but it's hard to breathe. I'm going to rest for a while. I'm back home. I'm home. But I was just there. I know it was real. The proof is in this book, but my family doesn't believe me. My parents asked where I'd gone for the past 2 days. I keep telling them what happened was real, and they think I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. The thing is, he went missing 2 days once and came back a little unstable. And then a week after that, he went missing again. But the second time it was for good. I'm not sure what to do now. Do I tell my wife? Do I call the police? Or do I just burn the page and forget I saw it? Update 1. I'm going to search the closet. I'm taking my phone, my charger, an emergency kit, my gun, as much ammo as I can find, and other things to survive. Whatever you saw, it seems dangerous, and I need to be prepared. I'll update as soon as I can. Update 2. I told my wife about what I was doing. She said I sound crazy. That I don't care. I need to find my son. I'm gonna try and clean my son's closet. Maybe that's how I get in. Update 3. I've fallen into this area just as described in the journal. It's endless hallways with old wallpaper and moldy carpet. The smell is horrific. It smells like blood and mold. I'm also hearing whispers just like the journal said. I can't believe I thought he was lying. I should have believed him. Maybe if I did, he wouldn't have gone missing. Update 4. I'm sorry for not updating in a few hours. I've been trying to find somewhere safer. I'm in a place that wasn't described in the journal. It's an area full of pools and water. The stench of chlorine is nauseating. I feel completely alone here. I don't think anything living is here. I'll update again soon. It's really short, but this one is, I think this one's the back rooms. But yeah, it's really short.
No, it's okay. That was so good. That was. Oh, it's so creepy.
My favorite thing about No Sleep though is like people in the comments always give suggestions to like the readers of like what to do next. I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that's like really cool.
Same. I think the general rule on the no sleep subreddit is that within the subreddit, everything is true, so you're supposed to, I guess, stay in character. Like,
Like the motto is like whatever is true, and even if it's not, it's true.
exactly. Yeah. And it helps with the immersion. I think it's very good in that sense.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that. Well, we are gonna go back to creepypastas. It'll be my turn. This will be our fourth story of the night. The truth endures regardless of who is witness. Exactly. Oh my god. I love that. Okay. This one is almost 10 years old. I think that's cool. Some things are just timeless, and I feel like tales are timeless as well.
We'll
Especially
never
if
have
they're.
creepy pastas like this again. I'm so sorry.
Stop! It's okay, because
Like,
we'll have other cool ones.
yeah, I think like after like Peak Slenderman is like when things just
It's hard to compete with that. Slenderman was a
yeah,
whole phenomenon.
it was.
But yeah, okay. Let me have a go again. This one is called Maybe It Will Go Away. I can hear them when it's quiet. They hide in the vents. They laugh at me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they know they've got me. I can't do anything to stop them. There's no one I can tell. Everyone would think I'm insane. Now I just have to wait. They'll come to collect me when they're ready. Not on my time, God no. They won't come for me until long after my mind has completely unhinged. By the time I know they don't want to be seen, I have a feeling I don't want to see them either. They come for me when I'm weakest. The first time I felt their icy breath at my neck was also the first time I tried to shower after I had first heard them. I closed my eyes to wash my hair, and suddenly the water became freezing. I felt a large, menacing presence behind me. Simultaneously, the laughter came from everywhere. What was this thing? Or these things? I've heard them in the smallest cracks and crevices, and it felt monstrous. Perhaps it always felt this way, but my mind had hidden the real fear. Only a moment had passed since I began to feel it, while these thoughts raced through my mind. I spun to face it, only to find myself staring at the wall. Startled, I got out of the shower and quickly dressed myself. Somehow, I knew they were watching me. It'll come back. This I'm sure. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't dare close my eyes for fear that they'd return. Every few hours, though, I could hear their piercing laughter cutting through the silence of my once safe home. It's been about 2 weeks since that night, and I haven't slept, showered, or left my house since. I hardly eat, Only when they stop screaming long enough for me to remember that I need to eat to survive. I lost my place. They are trying to keep me alive. Just barely. I don't know what they're waiting for. But they've changed. I've decided that they're not laughing anymore. Once they realized I wasn't sleeping anymore, they stopped laughing. For a while, it seemed like they spoke to each other. They don't speak like you or I speak. They don't even speak in the voices they laugh with. Instead, their speaking comes in the form of inaudible screeches that make the hair on my back of my neck stand straight up. I know it's them because when they see me cringe, they laugh again. The screaming started the day I tried to leave my house. Clearly, they want me to stay put. Oh, Lemon, thank you for the resub. I love you. I could not help that. I had my hand on the doorknob ready to make a run for it. It had been a week since I slept, and I'm sure I looked a mess. As my body gestured to open the door, I heard a scream that seemed to come from inside myself. My whole body shook and trembled as I fell to the ground. And suddenly it stopped. For a moment, I laid on the floor, screaming and crying, wishing this would all go away. They've now scared me into never leaving this place I once called home. Now I sit here at my desk writing this, the story of how I died. I don't know what they'll do once they take me. I can tell that there are more of them now. How many? I can't be sure. But what started as a few of these monsters terrorizing me has turned into a sea of screeching, cackling demons guiding me to my death. I don't know how much longer I can hold of this exhaustion. My eyelids are falling, and I once more feel the icy breathing on my neck. I know I won't wake or what will become of my body, but please, whoever reads this, whoever hears this, be warned. When you think you see something in the shadows, turn the other way. If you hear something in the basement, ignore it. For if they think that you know they're there, they'll show you no mercy. They'll terrorize you to your grave, just as they've done to me. The hands are upon me now, and I turn to see their faces. They let me look now. I know it will be the last thing I see. It terrifies me, but I can't fully comprehend what I see. Lack of sleep is messing with my vision now. I'm frightened, and I'm so very cold. Maybe if I just rest my head, it will all go away. Yeah! I got distracted in that one. I looked away and I completely lost my place. But hello, welcome in, Lemon. Mwah. No need to be sorry. Thank you so much for dropping by, and thank you for the resub. Hello. Oldie friend, don't worry about it.
You're doing super good, Myxie.
Oh, thank you. You too. This is really fun so far.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
Me too. I hope you guys are enjoying. I hope you guys are scared. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I know you're spending the night or the day listening to these spooky tales, but I hope everything is good. I'm going to hand it over to LIFEN, who is going to read our 5th story. Yeah, back to the no sleep.
This one is somebody has been leaving notes around my house, and they're starting to freak me out. They started innocently enough. Don't forget your keys, read the first message, scrawled on a sticky note in loopy letters. It had been left on my fridge door. It immediately grabbed my attention because at the time I lived alone. I had no memory of writing it, and the handwriting didn't match mine or anyone I knew. I was slightly perturbed, but wasn't sure how to react, and in the end, I just tossed out the note and went to work. The second note came a few days later, left on my kitchen counter. The sticky note was pink this time, but still had the same distinctive loopy handwriting. Make sure to pack a lunch today. Again, I was unsettled. Now, any normal person might have reported this to the police, but during that time, I was going through a major depressive spell. I moved to a new city away from my friends and family and had started a new job that I quickly realized I hated, and it didn't nearly pay enough. Home was lonely and the work was soul-crushing. I had trouble enough getting out of bed each morning, let alone filing a report that I am sure the police would not take seriously. Even more stressed, I crumpled up the note. However, I ended up packing a small lunch for myself. Usually, I didn't bother to put in the effort and just ate cafeteria food. But against my better judgment, I fulfilled the wishes of the note. That day, the cafeteria was closed. The main cafeteria fridge had broken overnight, and many of the frozen lunches inside of it had gone bad. Management thought it would be easier to shut it down for the day. A feeling of unease settled in my stomach after learning the news. It was as if the note had predicted it. The notes continued throughout the following weeks. They would typically show up on random days, no more than 3 notes to a day. They were all left in obvious places in my apartment, all on sticky notes and in that unfamiliar, loopy handwriting. They began to grow more and more prophetic. Take I-80 today. There will be a bad accident on your way home. Janet is going to offer you some cookies at the office. Politely decline. They will give you food poisoning. Marie has been on a diet. Compliment her on her weight loss. She'll end up thinking well of you. Of course, I tested these notes to see if they were accurate. Every time I ignored their advice, whatever it warned against came true. One day, a note said to pack an umbrella, and I purposely didn't. It was forecasted to be sunny that day, so any normal person wouldn't think to pack one. But sure enough, I got soaked that evening walking to my car. I was incredibly curious about the notes. There were so many questions I had about them, and so many unanswered questions kept festering in my head. I tried writing notes back in return and leaving them out, but never got a response. I'd speak out loud and ask questions as if, or in case, the note writer could somehow hear me, but this only made me feel foolish. I'd occasionally make a surprise visit home at odd hours just to see if I could catch the note writer leaving their notes. Of course, I never caught them. I tried installing cameras in my apartment, even making sure all the cameras were completely hidden, but the next day, I found every single one of the camera's insides completely torn out and placed on the kitchen table, with a single note next to them reading, "Never do that again." The notes stopped coming after that, which made me deeply regretful. I had grown accustomed to these notes. I'd begun to rely on them even. They had significantly improved my way of life over the last few months, both mentally, financially, and socially. I'd actually started making friends at the office thanks to their advice, and for the first time in my life, I was a little bit popular. My managers, who, before the notes, didn't pay much interest in me, now valued my presence and would ask for my opinion on projects. It was no secret I was on my way to a promotion. Could I still do that without the notes? I also valued the notes as a friend, as weird as that sounds, or more like a guardian angel. Wherever they were from, they were always protecting me. Without them, the future was suddenly unknown, dangerous. Every time some mild annoyance popped up from that point, from bad traffic to stressful work situations and even a minor paper cut, I thought about how all this probably could have been avoided if I had still had the notes. Then, next week, a bright green sticky note appeared on my bathroom mirror. "Don't forget to call Mom today. It is her birthday." I nearly cried. I decided to sack my investigation and just accept things as they were. Slowly, the fog of my depressive spell began to lift, and I could feel myself returning to how I used to be. My confidence rose, and for the first time in a while, I felt in equilibrium with my life. I went out, cracked jokes, and even managed to clean up my apartment. I also managed to get a girlfriend somehow. Her name was Amanda. I met her at a pub when I was out with my buddies. The best part about all of this was that for some reason, she seemed to actually be into me. She was gorgeous, way out of my league, really, with long auburn hair that reached down to her back with soft brown eyes. Her laugh was lovely, and the lemon perfume she liked to wear was intoxicating. She's just the type of girl you could chat with for hours and never run out of things to talk about. The relationship was still new, so I was trying not to plan our whole future together in our head, but she was so lovable, it was hard not to. And at some point, I briefly thought about telling her about the note. I've always wanted to tell someone about it, but never had up until now. I decided not to, however. Afraid she might think I was crazy. There was no point in so early in the relationship. Plus, I was afraid the notes might stop again. If whoever was leaving them clearly did, they react if I shared what was happening with somebody. So, at the moment, I kept them to myself. Amanda had a hobby of cooking and had invited me in her woods, the best fucking spaghetti you'll ever eat. I was pumped since this was the first time I would actually visit her house. I was in a good mood. That evening, as I was getting ready for the date, I hummed to myself, happily thinking about how long, and went downstairs to grab my keys. On the kitchen counter was a new hot pink sticky note, and I picked it up instinctively. Kill your girlfriend. My brain stopped for a moment. I read it once, twice, a third time, the words flashing in my brain and hitting an air. I set the note down and gulped, feeling nauseous. Anxiously, I walked to my car and started driving. I tried not to think about the note, but the words kept circling in my mind. Kill your girlfriend? The notes have never failed me before, and they were always in my best interest as far as I knew, which was admittedly not much. Maybe they were wrong this time? Maybe it wasn't meant to be taken literally? Kill could be a synonym for break up, right? My mind kept trying to make up poor excuses for the whole way there. By the time I was arrived, I was a sweaty mess and not a lick calmer. I pulled down my sun visor to check my face, and a bright green sticky note fluttered out. I went cold. The notes had never appeared outside of my house before. Hands shaking, I picked up the note and read it. Kill Amanda. Take the gun from your glove box and shoot her. I looked at my glove box wide-eyed. I did indeed keep a handgun in my glove box for safety purposes. I wanted to puke, to believe this wasn't happening. Again, I ignored the note and walked up to Amanda's house, trying to shake the message from my mind. She answered the door almost immediately after I had rang the doorbell. Hey, what's up? She said with a bright smile, and when she saw my face, the smile dropped. You okay, Gary? What's wrong? She said in concern. Nothing, I lied, trying to force a smile. Well, actually, I have a bit of a stomach ache. Come in, she said, ushering me in. The inside of her house was cute and homely, and she fretted over me worriedly as she led me over to her kitchen. She then took my hand and rubbed it comfortingly. If you're not feeling up to spaghetti, we can always have it another time. Don't worry about it. Do you want any antacids or anything? I smiled. The way she was so concerned for me over a simple stomach ache made me fall in love with her all over again. My heart pained with both love and guilt. The aroma of cooked spaghetti was also extremely strong, and even though she said it was fine, I knew it was probably a bummer for her to pack all that spaghetti after just making it. I'm fine, sweetie. I probably have a stomach ache because I haven't eaten much today. I was looking forward so much to your spaghetti. Her smile returned again, and I always loved how fast she smiled at things. So sorry. Well, then, Mr. Hungry, let me grab you a bowl. And she left for the kitchen, and I reclined back inside, sticking my hands in my pockets. I felt a crinkle of paper. Shit. I pulled the paper out of my right pocket. Take your chair and bash your head in. I had a hard time controlling my breathing as I stuffed the note back into my right pocket. I also felt paper in my left pocket, and against my mind screaming for me I pulled it out, realizing it was actually two notes crinkled together. Shakily, I unwrinkled the first note. Do not eat the spaghetti. Drugged. What's that? asked Amanda behind me, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. I stuffed the notes back in my left pocket. Oh, just some note I found from work. I forgot it was in my pocket, that's all, I said in a weird voice. She frowned, looked like she wanted to say something, but then thought better of it. Here, babe, she said gently, handing me a bowl of spaghetti. It looked heavenly. I wanted to puke. She sat next to me with her own bowl. She rested her hands in her head in her hands, and looked at me expectantly. I stared at her blankly. Well, take a bite, silly, she said, gesturing towards my bowl. I'm so sorry. I really need to use your restroom. I jumped up and started looking for her bathroom, and she jumped up after me, looking confused. Gary? What's wrong? You've been acting weird. When I found the right door, I went in and locked the door behind me, and she kept knocking and knocking. Gary? Gary, seriously, what's wrong with you? Is the stomachache that bad? Talk to me, Gary, please. I backed up and against the bathroom wall, then sank down to the floor. I pulled out the 2 notes from my left pocket again, and this time, reading the second note, my heart sank. She is not Amanda. Yay, that's the second? That's the 5th one.
Oh my god, that one is so disturbing. Oh, you don't expect stuff like that. That's so... Oh my goodness.
I just could never imagine going over to someone's house, especially if it's your partner and then it's not them.
Me too. That's really, really scary. And oh my goodness, it's just so scary. I don't want to think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the redeems. Here, let me.
The top comment on this post is also something carbon monoxide. Good luck.
Oh, that's... Well, they're not wrong, I guess, but... Oh my goodness. That's a really good one.
No, it might be, though. Carbon monoxide makes you think of scary things.
Yeah, me too. That's disturbing. I hope you guys like that one. I can't believe we're halfway.
I know, we're going through them so fast.
I know, right? But it's okay. We're doing good. I think it's my turn now. We're on the 6th one. Whoa. I hope you guys are liking them so far. I don't know if you guys have any favorites, but also there's still 5 more to go.
I know you knew one of mine and I knew one of yours, but I think both of us are going in relatively blind to each of our stories.
I think so too. But yeah, that's what makes it fun. Because we take turns and then we get to be in chat.
Right.
So yeah, it's so fun. I enjoy it. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the stories too. Our next one. Oh, Shiki has a favorite creepypasta. Yeah. I was thinking this stream will probably be about 2 hours, but if we're under that mark, maybe we can read out your favorite creepypasta.
Yeah, that would be fun
if any
too.
Of you have suggestions, so hold on to them, and we'll look into it later. It'll be so fun. Cute. Okay. I think my turn. I will be reading one called Aesthetically Pleasing next. I'm not a fan of altering my appearance, but it's what I have to do to blend in with society. Most males claim they dislike the charade most women allude to. They claim that they want a natural beauty, but drool over the overprocessed and overdone celebrities that aren't any different from the girls walking around within their own town. Because of this standard, because we are told we must resemble the unrealistic beauty of the women of Hollywood, girls lather on the makeup, blurring out their imperfections daily with various makeup brushes. I'm no different than those girls. I love makeup, I really do, but it's a hassle. My boyfriend has to wait in the living room for hours as I get ready for a simple movie date. attempting to perfect some imaginary caliber of aesthetic. Like many women, I refuse to leave the bathroom until I am fully made up, smiling cheerfully within the mirror's false reflection of myself. Unbeknownst to my boyfriend and the male population in general, natural is no longer in. Anyone within my community that is without the props and the gimmicks are no longer sought after, regardless of the beauty that they may display. If you do not display the sultry eyes, the plump red lips, the radiant skin, or the long, luscious hair, you're nobody to the world. You are but a monster. Even though us women have come to this shallow conclusion, we are often pressured by our mates to appreciate our raw beauty. Though we, including myself, have undergone severe torment countless times in the past by boyfriends who have witnessed our natural selves. I want to be able to love my appearance. I want to be able to be self-confident and to shout to the world that I am beautiful. But reality will not allow such blasphemous speech. Regardless of my fear, regardless of the unknown reaction my boyfriend would have of me, I broke down enough to allow my boyfriend to stay the night. How silly of me. As I showered, I heard the bathroom door crack open. To anyone else, this was an invite to more adventurous routes of intimacy. But to me, it was fear-inducing. Just as I expected, the familiar sound of shock filled the air. What the fuck? He said shakily. I turned the water off, slowly pulling the shower curtain open with hesitant hands. Once exposed, my boyfriend's gaze met mine, and though his eyes traveled up and down my nude body, the one he was so in love with previously, the look he displayed when he met my face was heartbreaking. "Can we talk about this?" I questioned as he backed away, his eyes wild with horror. He shook his head, trembling as he stumbled over his own shoes. "Where the fuck is your nose? What the fuck are you?" he questioned hysterically. I let out a deep sigh, extending my arms out towards him. "Please don't do this," I said, pleading with him. He continued backing away, turning his head swiftly towards the door, calculating how far a run it would be to make it out. "You can't leave," I said, shaking my head as tears fell down my cheeks. Because of my sudden deepened voice, his attention turned back to me, his expression even more horrified with the swift change of tone. As they all have in the past, he sprinted towards the door, hectically rotating the knob, forgetting to unlock the countless locks bolted on the frame. I watched on for a while, observing his horror, shock, and obvious repulsion of me. The anger began to swell as it had for years. The disappointment I felt as I witnessed him try to abandon me, forgetting the amount of courage it took me to reveal myself without the added hair, the fake tan, the prosthetic nose and ears, the hazel contact lenses, and the collagen-filled lips. He didn't appreciate my efforts just to please him. He thought I was hideous, just as his predecessors had. So, as he struggled with the last lock, screaming for help, I walked over, helping him unlock the door. Once outside, he began running down the hall, unaware of the growing population of women in the halls. Once he ran up to one of the women, pointing at the monster he pegged me as. The woman assured him, lowering him to the ground, as various others gathered around him. Slowly, the realization sunk in of his dire situation. The women all removed their masks, The ones my fellow sisters were confined in because of societal standards. And began ripping him apart. Yay, we're done that one too! The one was called Aesthetically Pleasing. It's a creepypasta.
That one was really good too.
It was, because it kind of goes like a route where it's like, damn, this shit sucks. But then it's like, damn, this shit is disturbing.
It kind of reminds me though of that TikTok audio that went all around where it's like the men cannot know we know that like our faces are fake because they'll think we're witches.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. That's so. Oh my gosh, that's so much. Help!
Oh!
Oh no, it's okay. As long as you know what show it was and like we can properly credit it and whatnot, I feel like that's okay. Twilight Zone. Oh, I love the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it was probably no. Twilight Zone was still in black and white though. It was not in the 80s.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Oh, that makes sense. But it's okay. Maybe we can still read it out. Not the stop, Eddie.
Stop.
Stop. You know what I want to know? Why is that not censored? But then like my thing. Okay, a long time ago in my early days of streaming, I remember LIFEN and Eddie were in my chat and we were talking about Hatoful Boyfriend, right? And one of you guys mentioned race war.
It was me.
And, yeah,
it was me.
And it literally got caught by the system or whatever, and I had to allow it. Like it's so sick. It's like the humans and the pigeons.
They literally were having a race war.
It's true. Play Hatoful Boyfriend. Find out.
Can we play? I really want to play Hatoful Boyfriend with everyone.
Oh no, it got taken down.
No, that's so sad.
Makes sense. I'm glad like they enforced it because plagiarism sucks, but man, I was looking forward to reading it. If you do have any other ones that you like though, feel free to let us know later on. No, Suki can't find the version she used to read.
Oh no.
Yeah, that one can't, like, if you can't find it, it's a process to figure out. To somehow dig it up. It was up for years. I'm shocked. I think it survived for like 10 years. But then boom, they cracked down.
Creepypasta had to crack down though. Like,
yeah,
the site went unmoderated for a really, really long time, and then like after what happened in Wisconsin, like, everyone was all over it.
Oh shit.
It was kind of big on the internet, but like mostly in America. But like the Slender Man thing was like, it was freaky. I remember like as a kid when that happened, my mom like took all my stuff to make sure I wasn't reading any of that stuff, which I was, but she never found out.
Ha, good. It's okay. We've been there. Not the worst thing to get away with. It's okay.
No,
even if it was slightly traumatizing, depending on the context.
Yeah, depends on which one.
Yeah. It is LIFEN's turn now. So I'm gonna.
This one's really, really long, so I'm just letting you guys know that beforehand.
Be sure to get cozy then if you're not already. Okay, I'll switch it over to you, LIFEN.
Thank you. Alright, this one is, our school went into lockdown in 6th grade and nothing about it makes any sense. The story is old. Almost 15 years old at this point. And to this day, it remains probably the single most unexplained event in my entire life. Those who witnessed it seldom, if ever, speak about it. All these years later, and I'm still not sure what to make of it, so I figured posting it here may lead to answers. I was in 6th grade at the time, but my memory of the day is as vivid now as it was then. I literally can't read. I'm so sorry. Much to my dismay. I've suffered from nightmares on and off ever since, and the true extent of my mental well-being may never be truly known. It started like any other day, with me grumpily walking to catch the school bus and nearly missing it, as per the norm. It was mid-September at the time, with temperate winds and comforting warmth renowned of early autumn. The place I grew up in was a small Midwestern town in the central United States, and bets on it being Michigan. For real. The whole school had only maybe 200 kids. In it grades 1 through 8, and my bus only brought around 20 to 30 of us. My friends Scotty and Lamar hopped on the second stop, and the three of us discussed Yu-Gi-Oh cards most of the way to school. Maybe most of this is irrelevant, but I think it's important to emphasize how boring and routinely this whole day began. It made what happened later that much stranger. It wasn't until lunch that something finally happened. I met up with Scotty, Lamar, and a few of our other friends, and after eating we formed a group and went out onto the field to play our variation of football. The style we played was known as Smear the Deer, with deer actually being a different rhyming word that may get me canceled for saying nowadays. For those that don't know, it was basically American football, but with more youthful angst. Somebody would just punt the ball, and whoever got it would run aimlessly while praying to the good Lord above as everyone else tried to obliterate them. As you can imagine, it spawned a lot of fights and many of us suspended over the years, and yet we kept playing because we were dumb school children. So, one of the kids punts it, and this kid, named Robert, catches it. He made it like 3 steps before getting clobbered by like 5 kids to the laughter and winces of everyone else. Things went on that way for a bit, and at some point, Kyle got the ball. Kyle was like the best punter in terms of distance, but knowing which direction it would go was anyone's guesses. So, Kyle boots it, and we watch as it soars far to the left and off into the woods. Our school was in the middle of this big field, and the improvised football field was right next to the woods that surrounded it about 200 yards out. Good job, Kyle, you dumbass. Another kid, Preston, jeered. Kyle just laughed and flipped him off as he jogged towards the tree line to retrieve it. He reached it a moment later and slowly began searching in the woods while the rest of us waited. I watched as he looked around in there, and suddenly he just froze up. His whole body just went stiff as a board, and he just stood there staring for like 10 seconds before someone finally yelled at him to hurry up. But Kyle didn't budge, nor react to the insult in any way. Another few seconds passed before he slowly turned back to face us, and that's when I noticed the slack-mouthed, wide-eyed expression on his face. Damn, Kyle, you shit your pants or something? Another kid, Carlos said with a laugh, but Kyle's expression didn't falter. He then glanced a bit at the woods. A split second later, and he fell onto his back, scrambling backwards and muttering frantically, "Oh, fuck that, man. Fuck that." He was met with a chorus of laughter from the others. Without pausing at all, Kyle just walked quickly back towards the school without another word. The others made jokes and laughed, but his reaction really unsettled me. The horror on his face appeared genuine, and I'd never seen him look like that. Kyle was never the type to seem afraid of anything, and seeing him react like he did was downright worrying. Scotty and I then silently approached the spot that Kyle had gone to, both of us now a bit hesitant. The rest of the group had now gone mostly silently, with only muttered conversation and hushed tones behind us. Once we reached the grove, we slowly peered within. I spotted the football almost right away, only about 30 feet within, but no sight of anything out of the ordinary. I've been in that patch of woods 100 times before, and nothing looked any different. Nothing obvious that would have spooked Kyle like that, but I still felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up. It was a really odd feeling, but I just shrugged it off. Ignoring them, I sauntered inside to grab the ball. As soon as my hand touched it, something changed. I've still not found the best way to describe this, but the closest thing is like when a plane depressurizes. My ears popped and my equilibrium seemed knocked off kilter for just a split second. It was the weirdest feeling, and it struck me completely out of nowhere. After pausing a moment to confirm that I wasn't about to pass off or anything, I grabbed the ball and stood back up, but as soon as I did, I felt something on the back of my neck. Hot air coming in rhythmic and rancid waves, like someone was literally breathing down my neck. I spun around, heart suddenly racing in my chest. There was nothing behind me aside from Scotty, standing and staring unsettled back at me. "You good, dude?" he asked. Truth be told, I didn't know whether I was or not, or how to account for what had just happened, but I nodded back anyways. Part of me wondered whether it was just anxiety or something, but I didn't really know what to think. As a young boy in middle school, though, admitting to fear was social suicide, and not something I was about to do. "You didn't see anything behind me, did you?" Scotty gave me a curious glance. "No. Why?" It was clear to me he wasn't lying, and he was standing much too far away for it to have been him messing with me somehow. Furthermore, I heard no footsteps behind me, and if it had been him, then the pile of leaves on the ground would have been dead a giveaway. With an uncertain shiver, I shrugged it off as best as I could, and the two of us returned to the others with the ball. I didn't play much after that, as my mind was suddenly convinced that there was something very wrong. But I couldn't just pinpoint it. It felt like someone was watching us, hidden well within the trees. Eventually, I decided to go and try and find Kyle, but the bell rang before I could. Math was my next class, and I spent most of it trying to forget that unnerved feeling and calm down.
We're gonna do a bit of an intermission while Lifen is unable to read out the rest of the story. Take your time, Lifen. That was a little disturbing so far. The story had a good, like, the build-up was good. I like how it kind of established the setting and every character that was kind of mentioned. You could get a good grasp of them. Gotta say, it's always the Kyles. Maybe that's a little rude, but what do you guys think about it? And it's okay, family matters, it happens. And this is our 7th story, so we're only gonna have 3 more left. Ooh. If you guys... Oh, I forgot to send in the link to the story as well. That's my bad. This one.
I'm so sorry. I was not expecting that. They're all downstairs. Okay, so
You're
my
all
room is
good.
downstairs, and they all like barged down here to start using the 3D printer.
Oh no.
So I just walked out and I looked at them and I was like, "Can we be quiet, please?"
Yeah. It's okay. I'll
I'm
put you
so
back.
sorry.
No, don't worry. That was totally unexpected on everybody's part. But we can get back into it whenever you're ready. I did send in
Yeah.
the post, and then I'll switch it over to your screen. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, thank you. I'm so sorry. Alright. Math was my next class, and I spent most of it trying to forget that unnerved feeling and calm myself down. Things went as normal, but after about 20 minutes, I felt myself needing to pee. The teacher excused me to go to the restroom, and I grabbed the hall pass from her desk as I exited the classroom. As I made my way down the hall, I noticed that outside had gotten suddenly dark. Not dark enough for night, but dark like a thick overcast of clouds. Since the sun had been shining brightly during lunch, I found that kind of odd too, but didn't think much more of it. As mentioned earlier, our school was small in terms of students and faculty, so of course the building itself was no exception. It was only about 75,000 square feet, or about 20,000 smaller than the average Walmart. It was just outside our hometown and about half a mile away from the local station. The lights flickered when I was in the bathroom washing my hands. Again, not something super unusual, as the school was prone to occasional electrical mishap. They stabilized a moment later, and I made my way out back into the hallway. As soon as I exited the bathroom, I froze. The outside window had gotten much darker than before, like it was suddenly the middle of the night. My initial thought was, cool, a solar eclipse. But as someone emerged from the office, that thought evaporated. A familiar, middle-aged man hustled into the hallway, scrambling to the front doors and quickly locking them. It was our school principal, and as he turned to face me I saw an unrivaled terror etched upon his face. Get back to your class now. Tell your teacher, Code Silver. My heart sunk as I heard the words, and I realized the deadly seriousness in his voice. Without a word, I sprinted back to the classroom, flinging the door open and scrambling inside as I got one last look behind me. The entire environment seemed to have flipped in an instant, and something was very wrong. My teacher, Mrs. Smith, scolded me in an annoyed tone. I turned back to the door and stared at her. Her expression seemed to slowly turn from cross to visibly concerned. Code Silver, I muttered out, and Mrs. Smith's eyes went wide. Lock the door. Everyone into the corner now, she commanded. The students did as requested, quickly filing into the corner and out of sight of the door. I locked the door, and Mrs. Smith rushed towards me to ensure it was secure. After which she rushed back to her desk, dialed a few numbers on her desk phone, and spoke. Her voice blared over the intercom, reiterating the lockdown order for all others in the school. Everyone packed together tightly into the corners out of sight of the door. The entire class hunkered down as we practiced many times before. Once there, Mrs. Smith doused the lights and everything fell eerily silent. The next few moments we heard the faint sounds of the next door classrooms, likely doing the same as all of us held our breath. Most American kids probably know what Code Silver is. It's a national alert given for any active shooter. Anyone who attended a school in the States probably remembers practicing the lockdown drills. Basically, the whole class just locks the doors and hides together. The only defense is the locked door and hope that whatever danger is outside will not be able to get in. What did you see out there, Eric? One of the girls in the class whispered to me. Mrs. Smith shushed the both of us before I could reply. I pondered the same question in silence as we all waited. The sounds of the other classrooms soon hushed as well. The entire vicinity felt eerily quiet as all of us waited like fish trapped in a barrel. The more I thought about the way the principal reacted, the less sense it made. I hadn't seen anything to indicate an active shooter and just assumed that he had, and yet still, I had no explanation for how things had suddenly gone so dark. It wasn't like a school shooter could affect the weather, and the windows were far too large for someone to have covered them so quickly. Something very different was happening. The hallway lights extinguished a few minutes later. leaving us alone in silent, sudden darkness. Even the windows in the classroom didn't show any light from beyond, and the darkness became so thick I could barely see my own hand in front of my face. We stayed like that for several minutes before a sudden calamity struck. It sounded like shattering a glass and creaking a metal. My heart was throbbing in my chest then, and the muffled sounds of crying and whimpering from the other students surrounded me. Mrs. Smith shushed all of us, trying her best to maintain order. By that point, my eyes had adjusted to a bit to the darkness, and I could see Mrs. Smith looking through the door's side windows. Silence befell once more, a lingering malaise which lasted several minutes. Suddenly, Mrs. Smith audibly gasped and backed away from this window. I saw her hold her index up to her lips and could see tears sparkle in her eyes. And suddenly, the room began to grow brighter. I thought the power was coming back on, and then I realized the light was actually coming from something out in the hallway. It was a bright effervescence with a slight reddish tint that softly shimmered. The light seemed to flicker ever so slightly, like that of a flashlight, losing power but different somehow. In the years since, I've tried to replicate the light using various other light sources, but I've never quite gotten it right. It wasn't a flashlight or an open flame producing the light that much I'm certain of, and I can't say for certain what it was. A sound emerged along with it, sounding like wet, squishy footsteps, as though someone were trudging through a swamp. They came closer, and the light grew brighter. In a few seconds, it seemed to be directly outside the classroom door, and I could literally feel the other students hold their breaths. A slight thud hit the door, and none of us dared to make a sound. The door handle jiggled slightly, but from our vantage point, none of us could see who or what was on the other side. The light seemed to flicker and change intensity outside, beaming through the windows in altered variation. We were hunkered down, perpendicular to the door, meaning the light couldn't reach us so long as it stayed outside. We could only hide there and offer silent prayers to that whatever was making the light wouldn't get in, and by some miracle, it didn't. And several seconds later, the jiggling handle stopped. The footsteps then grew distant and the light faded. The relief was palpable, but it did not last. Perhaps a minute later, and a sudden shrill, ear-piercing scream rang down from the hall, one that seemed cut short at its apex. Sounds of slight skirmish ensued with crashing and thumping, and it was over in just a few seconds, and the uncomfortable silence returned. It went on that way for hours, with me and the other students hiding in the darkness. We heard more screams and other noises at certain points, but whatever was out there never returned At some point, the darkness outside finally relented, and it seemed as though the sun was beginning to rise. I know that wasn't the case because my wristwatch told me it was just before 5 p.m., seeming to affirm that discovery was the fact that the sun was still high in the sky and not anywhere near the horizon. A few minutes later, and the sounds of police sirens emerged. Dozens of police and even a SWAT team swarmed the building soon after, ushering all of us out from within room by room. The sense of relief was indescribable as they let us out, but not without a modicum of confusion. Several windows and doors were shattered, and parts of the hall damaged, with parts of the hall even appearing melted. Some of the lockers were slumped and malformed, like an intense heat had been focused on them. I don't know how that would be possible without causing a fire, but that's apparently what had happened. Once I finally stepped outside, I found my parents waiting for me along with my older sister. They hugged me tighter than ever before, as dozens of other families around us did the same. Behind us, I noticed the police sectioning off the school with barriers and tape as though it were an active crime scene. I questioned my parents on what had happened, but they didn't say much. We returned home and allowed the cops to conduct their investigation, and that's when everything got a lot stranger. Later that same day, I started feeling nauseous and proceeded to puke my guts out for the remainder of the evening. The headache I got then was by far the worst I've ever experienced. My parents at first thought it was the aftermath of the trauma, until some of the other parents said the same thing was happening to their kids. Before I knew what was happening, a bunch of dudes in biohazard equipment showed up. They run a bunch of tests on me and then tell me to remain calm. My parents and my sister were separated from me, and I didn't see them for several days after. The obvious concern was that myself and the other students that felt sick had contracted some sort of virus, and with the previous events at the school, people were worried it was some sort of bioweapon terrorist attack. Thankfully, I woke up the following day feeling loads better. The medical personnel continued to run tests, but everything looked relatively normal. Eventually, they made the discovery that our sickness was not due to a viral agent, bacteria, or mold, but instead due to radiation exposure. Thankfully, it wasn't enough to do serious long-term damage, but obviously explaining it was another matter entirely, one which we had yet to resolve. Our school was closed for almost a month after this event, which at the time was fantastic news to me. Once we were finally allowed to return to school, we were given zero explanation and just basically expected to forget anything ever happened. There were never any news reports, nor interviews or articles of any kind. It's like the whole thing never happened, and were it not for the memories of those who lived through it, there would not be any record of it at all. Kyle, the same kid from earlier, ended up not showing up for his English class. I'm so sorry they barged into my room again. This keeps happening. This is so embarrassing. Kyle, the same kid from earlier, ended up not showing up for his English class directly following lunch period. For a while, people thought he had something to do with the lockdown, and hell, maybe he did. But I doubt we'll ever know now. He hasn't been seen since that day almost 15 years ago now, and he's not the only one. Our school's principal, the same guy I'd seen in the hall, along with one of the school's janitors, also vanished, never to be seen again. Police found no bodies, nor evidence of abduction, or physical conflict, at least not that they were willing to admit publicly. There are no death certificates for any of them, and all three are simply listed as missing. And I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. I questioned my parents about this, and they claimed all the police told them was that a dangerous fugitive had broken into the school that day. A dangerous fugitive who apparently was capable of summoning eclipses, melting lockers, and tearing metal doors down from their hinges. Not to mention the whole radiation thing as well. That's another thing too. There's no record of a solar eclipse on that day, and I've looked everywhere I can think to. We weren't allowed anywhere near the school for weeks afterwards. Cops sectioned off the streets that led to it, while others patrolled the surrounding woods. On several occasions, we saw guys in blacked-out Suburbans and cargo vans driving down there, but they never formally identified themselves. I overheard my parents talking back then once, and I remembered my dad telling my mom that he didn't think the school would ever reopen. He said it didn't feel the police were conducting a routine investigation, and told her the entire thing seemed more like a cover-up than a crime scene. I've asked them more recently as well, but they seem to have learned very little. I've shared this experience with them too, and although they agree it was weird and disturbing, they don't seem to have any further theories. I've spoken to others who were there that day too, and gotten all manner of mixed responses. Lamar seems to think that we were attacked by aliens, while Scotty seems to think that our entire school fell into a separate dimension for a period of time. Maybe there is a logical, important explanation to all of this, but I have yet to find it. Considering the secrecy and the lack of coverage and the way the authorities behaved, I'd say it's safe to conclude that something out of the ordinary happened that day, and we may never know what. Whatever it was, I think Kyle saw it, and I think that's why he's gone. When the school finally reopened, it never quite felt like the same. We ended up finishing that year, but it wasn't without incident. Multiple students I know claimed to have seen things they couldn't explain in that building. Everything from ghosts and demons to wild animals. A few students even suffered full-on mental breakdowns and panic attacks while in the old school. I even know at least one of the girls who spent some time in the psych ward afterwards. Perhaps most of it could be attributed to PTSD related to the lockdown. Or maybe there was something far more sinister at play. Nightmares and bouts of sleep paralysis followed me for years after this event. I still get them every once in a while, even now. I never know how to describe them, but I wouldn't wish them on anyone. I've always hoped that one day I'd be able to look back on this event with hindsight and understand that it was only scary because I was a kid. Like I imagined it wrong or didn't happen. I still can't say I understand what happened, but I can't help but feel more worried now than I was then. As a kid, life goes on and you forget, but as an adult, you just end up over until coming to a worrying realization. We as humans set up these systems, ways of life, and comforts, but there are things out there that can and sometimes will bypass all of them. Things that are beyond our understanding that we have little power against. Sometimes what those things are truly capable. That is my fourth story. I apologize for interruptions. That one was really long.
No, it's okay. That one was disturbing. Oh my goodness. It's okay. You did great. Even despite these things, they're totally unexpected and you never know what is gonna happen. But oh, Demonade! Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the Ice Cream Kingdom.
Oh my god, hello.
Hello, welcome in. Oh my goodness, it's Luca. Hello. Let me follow you back. I cannot believe I was not before. But how are you doing? Welcome in. We're currently me and LIFEN here. Let me pull up the command. Me and LIFEN Xiao are reading some spooky stories. We got them from the No Sleep subreddit and then the creepypasta wiki websites. And yeah, hello. I finally caught your stream. I'm good. Thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. If you guys don't know, Luca is also a really great streamer. He's very cool, so you should follow him as well. It's so funny. I just saw him on my timeline too, and then boom, Lemonade in my Ice Cream Kingdom. But yeah, that was our 7th story that LIFEN just wrapped up. So I think it's my turn. I'm going to read, let's see, a dark leather book. So I'll switch over and I'll begin reading. Okay. So, I finally got done cleaning my room, as I've been putting it off all summer and it seemed about right to clean it to start the new school year fresh. My room isn't all big, but big enough to take a couple of hours to clean. As I got finished cleaning, I found a book lying on the floor. And this book wasn't ordinary in the way as it did not have a title on the front nor a summary on the back. The book was about the size of any novel book, but the binding and the material wasn't the same. It wasn't a paperback, nor was it a hard copy. The covers of the book are made out of a leather-like material, brown in hue and wrinkled in appearance. The binding of the book has what looks like a string weaved in and out of it. I don't know where this book came from, but it seems fairly interesting, so I opened it. The book's pages were wrinkled and had a different feel to them, sort of like parchment paper. The pages had black lining around the edges of each page, with a small red image, which I could not make out for the life of me. I continued to examine the book, and as I did, I had noticed something was off. What was wrong was that the pages were blank, as if it had been never used. I flipped through the pages to see if there was a story, or at least any writing in it, but I didn't find anything until I reached the middle of the book. This page was different from all of the others. It had wrinkles to it, and the entire page was black with some writing on it. The writing was red, a deep blood-like red, and as I gazed upon the page, I noticed that the light in my peripheral vision was getting darker. I looked up from the page and quickly looked around, only to notice that my room was still lit from the sunlight coming in from the window. I looked back down at the page, and I noticed that it only had 2 words. The end. I wonder why it said the end. It was pretty odd for a book to have the words the end, if there was not a story to go with it. I continued flipping through the rest of the pages, only to get a small gust of wind go past my face. I brushed it off and closed the book. I didn't care what else was in the book, as from what I can see, it didn't have any other writing in it. I got up and placed the book on my desk next to my laptop. I figured maybe later I could ask my mom when she got home what she thinks the book could be. I sat down, turned on the TV, and my game system picked up my controller to play some video games. The usual splash screens appeared and I began to play my game, but shortly after, I noticed that the controller was no longer responding. I figured, well, maybe the batteries in the controller were dead. I looked down at the controller to view the indicator lights, but the light was still green. Nothing out of the ordinary, so I pressed the guide button to see what the battery level was at. The guide shows that the batteries were still good. I didn't worry because this happened, because technology is never truly consistent. That's when I got up and walked to the kitchen to grab some spare batteries out of the remote. As I walked out of my room and into the hallway, I heard what sounded like tapping from the controller. I turned around, walked back into my room to see maybe if the controller fell from where I was. But no, it was still in the same position that I left it in. I left the room again and proceeded down the hall and into the kitchen to grab the batteries out of the spare remote. Now I was sure these batteries were as good as I just placed them in earlier this morning. I walked over to the counter and picked up the remote, and I opened the back of the remote and pried out the batteries with my fingernails. Closed the back of the remote again and then sat the remote back down. I turned around and proceeded back out of the kitchen and down the hall. I walked back into my room and sat down and picked up my controller, opened the back and replaced the batteries. And I turned it up back on and went back to playing, but not long afterwards, I noticed it started to become unresponsive again. So I hit the controller a few times with my hand, hoping maybe that would help. But no, it only made it worse. Now, the character was moving all by itself. Something was really off. The character was fully interacting with the environment, shooting at the opposing team, picking up power-ups and the like. I sat and watched, wondering what was going on. And then nothing. Pure darkness. The power went out, and I thought to myself, if the controller isn't acting right, then the house isn't acting right. I got up and went to the window to see if our house was the only one without power. But I couldn't see out of the window. The news didn't discuss of a storm moving through or rolling blackouts. But sure enough, the sky was as dark as I think it could ever get, and the visibility was poor. I grabbed my phone from my desk and turned it on, the flashlight app, and I left my room. As I walked down the hall, I felt a presence. Not the normal. I'm the only one in the house. The power is out, and it's about to get weird type of presence. The sort of presence where you feel like someone is behind you. I stopped where I was at and turned around, hoping that the feeling would go away. But as I turned slowly, I felt like the house was getting darker, and the energy around me was getting slower. Almost as if I was moving through thick sugar. I finally turned around and saw that there was nobody behind me. That was weird. I could have sworn someone was behind me. I turned back around and continued down the hallway, getting closer and closer to the living room. And as I got closer to the living room, the feeling just got stronger. The house got even darker. There was not only a sensation that there was something behind me, but there was a heavy breathing. A hard-to-describe feeling, as if someone placed me in a neck-deep pool with molasses and made me walk through it. I shook the feeling off and kept going, thinking it was all in my head. I finally got to the living room, and I noticed that my head was pounding. I don't really get headaches, but today of all days, I get a headache. I tried to shake it off, but not this time. I turned the flashlight app up brighter so I could see better, but it didn't help. I continued walking through the living room, only to see something dart from the corner of my eyes. It was extremely fast. I looked in the direction of where it was at, shining the light, but nothing was there. As I was looking in that direction, I saw something dart again, but this time, it was accompanied by a pressure on my wrist and neck. It was a strange feeling, and the sensation appeared out of nowhere. It hurts really bad. I looked around and didn't notice anything at first, until I saw it. And it was tall, roughly 8 feet in height and slightly skinny. I cannot see what it was, nor its face. All I could see was its dark, dull, humanoid silhouette. It gave off a faint but recognizable smell of dragon's blood. The longer I looked at the shadow, the longer I felt compelled to move closer. It felt like I was in a daze. I knew I was looking at it, but I didn't know why. The smell drew me in, and the sheer presence did the same. I started walking slowly to it until I realized that it wasn't me that was doing this of my own will. I quickly snapped out of it and ran into my room, closing and locking the door behind me. I turned around from the door into the center of my room, only to see the book lying on my bed, and it was opened to the middle of the book where the words, "The End" was. I looked at the page and noticed something was sitting on top of the page. So I walked over and I saw that it was a small gemstone. Red as blood. Where it came from, I don't know, but it wasn't there before. I didn't hesitate to throw the book and the gemstone onto the floor. Not knowing what to do next, I did the only thing I could do. Hide. I hastily walked into my closet and proceeded to open, and as I opened it, I was greeted again by this tall, dark figure. I looked up at it this time, not being able to look away. I felt myself this time moving towards the figure slowly, but at the same time, I was gradually picking up speed. As I got closer to the figure, the smell of blood drew closer and stronger. I was afraid of what was going to happen, so I closed my eyes praying, hoping that this wouldn't be it. As I got closer, something happened. The lights came back on, and my parents were standing next to me, asking why I was staring into the closet. I didn't know what to tell them. How do I explain to them what transpired without seeming crazy? I just looked at them until the thought ran across my mind about the book. I looked around for the book, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked at my parents and I asked them, what happened to the book that I had? But my parents looked at me and asked, what book? I told them that I had found a book. It was made out of leather, and it had weird pieces of paper in it. My mom didn't say anything, but she just looked at me and walked out. But my dad told me that the book I was describing to belonged to his father's father. The book was stored in the attic. He told me that it was a book that's not meant for reading, and he left my room. I looked at him, and I was puzzled, sitting down on my bed, wondering what he meant by that. Later that night, I was getting ready to go to bed, just taken my shower, put on my pajamas, and was getting ready to lie down. Until I noticed that the book was sitting back on my bed. I didn't want to open it or look at it. I just wanted to go to bed. I placed the book on my desk, hopped into the bed, and got underneath the covers and went to sleep. I did not have any pleasant dreams. Nothing but nightmares. One nightmare after another until I woke up with tears running down my face. I looked around and took a sigh of relief, but I noticed my throat was dry. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't move. My hands and feet were tingling. I couldn't open my mouth. It felt as if someone or something was holding me down to my bed. I tried with all my might to get up, but I couldn't. I tried to call for help, but words wouldn't form as my mouth would not open. I then noticed something at the foot of my bed, tall and dark. I stared at it for a second, hoping for my eyes to adjust, and they did. That's when I noticed it was the same dark figure I encountered earlier. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything but stare. I looked at it, but didn't feel anything like I did before. I closed my eyes tight, hoping for it to all be a nightmare. I took a deep breath and opened them. Only to see now, it was standing over me. All I could see on it was a smile and teeth. Sharp, razor-like teeth. And its teeth were red in color. I just laid there and stared, and I stared. The overwhelming smell of blood came back along with a headache and the feeling of pressure on my wrist and neck. The only sensation I got, the only emotion I felt, was dread. All I could do was close my eyes with the image of its smiling, razor-sharp teeth burned into my mind forever. Worked on that one. I honestly struggled with that one because when there's no commas, I just wing it, and I wing it really bad.
No, I totally get what you mean.
But it was
That one was really,
interesting.
really good.
It was scary. And like you can tell that it was like a kid. I tried choosing different creepypastas where it was like, okay, different kinds of people. Like I had a woman, and I had someone who you didn't really know, but they're probably like an adult or something. But yeah, I totally missed out on a lot. Let me back read. Oh my goodness, we had Kronk. Kronk, hello. I hope you're doing well. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I'm in your stream too. I have it open on my other computer.
So do I.
Yippee, Kronk. If you guys are not already following Kronk, please do. Oh my goodness. Let me...
Kronk is so talented.
I
They're
agree.
working on new emotes right now.
They have the best emotes ever. If you
I know,
like silly
so
and unique emotes, there's Kronk's stream. And they started streaming again recently. They had like a big hiatus. I'm glad you guys found it spooky. And it's Ame. Oh my goodness, welcome in, Ame. Hold on, I'm dying. Why are you so cute? Oh gee. No, you're the cutest. Guys, Ame also streams. They're really amazing and they have the best design ever. I love their art too.
I know,
So
I
talented.
just followed Ame recently. So cute.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet, please. Is it wrong to spam shoutouts? Yeah, I'll also shout out Luca. Lemonade, we were talking about him earlier. Yeah. Ooh, Cozy
Mm.
Grove. I'll become the horror story. Help! No, so sweet. And thank you for the hydrate, posture check, and stretch redeems. Let me do that right now.
I got all of mine out at once.
Oh, that's good. Ooh, I cannot believe we're only down to 2 stories left.
I
That's,
know.
that went by so fast, but it felt
It
like a long
did.
time too. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, so now I'm gonna be handing it over to LIFEN. LIFEN's last story.
It's my last one. But this one is all of the women in my family died at the age of 27, and I turned 28 in 2 hours and 32 minutes. My dad always wanted a son. He got 3 daughters instead. He hated us all. He hated my twin sisters, he hated my mother, but most of all, he hated me. Oh, but hated me most of all because I was the last child my mother had before she died. That didn't stop him from treating me like his boy. Didn't stop him from attempting to beat the hatred of my own gender. Quit your crying, he'd snap, or you'll end up like your sniveling bitch of a mother. After years of that shit, he was shocked that I grew up as a tomboy. I think he hated that even more because I was just a constant reminder. Never. My mother died when she was only 27, when I was only 4. The coroner ruled her death a natural some weird heart complication that took her in her sleep. My dad, though, he says it's because of her family's curse. Whenever I came to him, desperate for more information about a mother he never had much to say. I'm convinced he was just drunk since the day he was just drunk since the day she had died. Every woman in her damn family, they die when they're all 27. They die when they're 27. Eats buttered in between belches, his breath reeking of stale beer. I think the real curse is that my mom was the one to die, not him. I wasn't fully convinced by the ramblings of a perpetually drunk man, but when I lost both of my sisters just months before their 28th birthday, I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. Moira was found murdered, her face practically blasted off by a shooter while she was on a job, and Joy took her own life only days later. I was the one who found her, hanging in the bedroom of her apartment as I came to pick her up at the funeral. She'd been there, swinging from the rafters all night. It's hard to live a normal life in Expiration Day, especially when it encountered an entire year. I always dreaded my birthday, which from an early age was associated with fun and birthday cake and more with worry and funeral caskets. But once Moira and Joy died, my next boyfriend, my next birthday, 25, 25, was the most dreadful day of my life. 26 was worse. 27 unimaginable. This is it, I thought as I closed all the blinds in my apartment, downing the last drop of vodka in the bottle. This is the last year of my life. 27 has been uneventful to say the least. Why would I make any long-term plans, forge any meaningful relationship when I know they simply cannot last? The worst part of this last year has been simply not knowing when my impending death is coming. It could have been any day with the last 164. It could be within the next minute. I must admit, I became something of a recluse. My windows always shuttered, additional locks installed in my door, letting the phone ring through to voicemail, hiding under my covers with lights out whenever I got a knock on my door. I stocked up on preserved foods and various goods that I would need to last the year. I was so paranoid that I even stuffed a towel in the space beneath my front door. I didn't want anything getting through from the outside world. God forbid, an anthrax letter. falling off the face of the earth didn't matter much anyway. I didn't have any friends or family anymore. My mother and both of my sisters were dead, and my dad disowned me when I came out and moved away and severed contact after. The night before my 27th birthday, I started getting these strange phone calls from a blocked number. I've always had anxiety about phone calls, so I just let it ring. The number kept calling, at least once per day throughout the past year, and then the knocking started once a week at first, but it's only been getting worse. More frequent, and the pounding on my door more frantic each time. Convinced it had something to do with my inevitable death, I've been driven mad by the unknown visitor, especially over the past week. I got ready for bed last night, knowing that today now, is the day I will turn 28. My time had run out, and I had searched for comfort in the bottle of liquor. I didn't find it. I fell into bed, drunk and delirious, and prayed the morning wouldn't come, though I knew it would. I eventually got to sleep, and it was restless and unsatisfying. The kind of sleep where you feel like you have one eye open, always watching. That's why I was quick to wake when the door to my bedroom creaked open early in the morning, before the first sign of light. I shot up in my bed, glancing around my room in a frenzied panic, at first seeing nothing out of the ordinary other than the door, pushed slightly ajar. A closer look revealed something I'd missed, something that set my heart racing, froze me to my core. Two dark figures stood in the empty space behind the half-open door, unmoving, almost like a pair of statues, waiting, watching, wordless. Leave me alone, I squeaked. Unable to move, paralyzed in the power of their presence, the shadowy figures instead shuffled out from behind the door, creeping slowly toward the dark. I knew this would certainly be the end of my life, the fulfillment of my curse if I didn't act. Suddenly recalling the self-defense methods I had drilled into my mind, I flipped my bedside lamp on to stun the intruders and reached underneath the table to pull the knife I duct taped there a year ago, a 27th birthday gift to myself. As soon as the light flooded the room, though, I knew the blade would be of no use. My pair of intruders were not a pair of assassins, not human ones at least. In the yellow light of the lamp I discerned the identities of the dark figures. They were my sisters. Joy stood at the foot of my bed, pale, in the same conservative black dress I had found her dead in years ago, the one she picked out for Moira's funeral. Her head hung parallel to her shoulders, neck grotesquely bending from her hanging. Moira was a few steps behind her. I could only assume it was her, considering this. She suffered a gunshot wound to the head, so brutal that we were not allowed to see her death, so intense that it had entirely her face. The lower half of her face had been reduced to a pit of gore, her jawbone barely attached on one side, her mouth mangled, with only several teeth remaining studded randomly throughout the mess. "Why are you here?" I cried, gathering my knees to my chest and holding them tight. Are you here to take me?" Joy made a feeble attempt to shake her head, the side of her face only brushing weakly against her shoulder. She waited several moments before putting one of her feet in front of the other, moving towards the side of my bed. As I recoiled instinctively, she slowed her pace. Moira trailed after her until they were both beside me. I whimpered as Joy leaned over me, her head flopping forward suddenly with the motion, neck cracking sickeningly. Her lips brushing against my ear, she whispered, She tried. Her speech was labored and wheezing as vocal cords had nearly been shredded. "What do you mean, Joy?" I pleaded. Her lips moved against my ear once, but no sounds came out despite a clear, strenuous effort. Moira wagered at an attempt at answering my query, but only succeeded in spattering blood from the gaping wound in her face, ejecting one of her remaining teeth onto the floor as her jawbone swung precariously, barely hanging on. She raised one hand, slowly curling it into a fist, striking her knuckles furiously on the bedpost, the incessant sound startling me as I forced my eyes to shut tight and pulled my knees even closer. Moira's knocking seemed only to escalate in volume, seemed to go on forever until, finally, it stopped. I cracked my eyes open to find that both my sisters had vanished. That the light of the early morning had begun to spill in through the slats of my blinds. It was just past 6 o'clock, the 7th of June, the day of my 28th birthday. I was born at 9:26 a.m. Once I learned of the curse, I burned the time of my ultimate expiration into my mind. I only had 3 hours and 16 minutes left to live, if I even had that long. Draping my covers over my head, I resolved to sleep. I figured that I'd rather pass peacefully in my sleep like my mother did than to suffer a fate similar to my sister's. My plans were interrupted, however, by that damned knocking at the door. The interruptions usually didn't come so early in the morning, and I decided initially to ignore the strange visitor, but pulled the blankets back down soon after as a certain sense of familiarity struck me. The pounding of the door reminded me all too much of Moira's knock before. It easily could have been a trick of the curse, but something compelled me to approach the door. "What do you want?" I called from behind the barrier, clinging to the relative safety it provided. The reply came from an unfamiliar man's voice. "I just have a letter for you, miss. Just slide it under the door and please leave," I returned, using my bare foot to remove the towel I had used to block the small space beneath it, and he deposited a bright yellow envelope under the door as I requested. I waited quietly for the sounds of receding footsteps before sliding on a pair of gloves to handle the letter. It was addressed to me simply by first name with no address. Carefully, I unsealed the envelope to reveal a birthday card. I hadn't received one in years. Bright, sparkling letters on the front informed the words, "Daughter, you're 27. I scoffed at the sick joke. I hadn't received a birthday card since I was a child, and my dad couldn't even get my birthday right. I didn't think he even knew my address. I cracked it open gingerly to reveal the letter and "Laura, if you're reading this, your father has killed me. Don't believe a thing he or the police say. I was not the target of a random attack, and I did not die of natural causes. I certainly did not commit suicide. I would never leave you if I had the choice. The truth is, I died because I found the truth behind my family's curse and foolishly told your father. He was in on it the entire time, planted in my life by some secret society to eradicate us. What we have is not a curse. It is a gift of immense power, the power to heal, but the power to harm just the same. We come into our power at the age of 28, a number associated with independence, leadership, and self-sufficiency, an age where we can handle the responsibility inevitable. It's a strong number, and you will come into great strength, though you've always been a strong girl. I hope you made it this far, but at the same time, I know you have. You were always a feisty little girl from the 4 years pleasure of knowing you, of love. You never let anyone tell you what to think or do, especially not your father. Happy birthday. I love you. Mom. I closed the card softly, thinking the strained words of my sister. Mom had tried to warn them, and they didn't listen. The pieces of the puzzle slid into place, and my dad must have murdered Nora in grief and the belief that she would inevitably be next. At the time of writing this, I only have 2 hours and 32 minutes until I officially. Over the past hour or so, I've already begun to feel the power flowing into my body, electrifying as it runs through my veins. I will the towel to reposition itself under the door. It does, sliding across the floor on its own. I need to keep myself safe until 9:26 a.m. After all, I'm planning a surprise visit. Oh, I'm planning on surprising my father with a visit for my birthday. That's the end of mine.
That was so freaky. Oh my god. That was really good though. I didn't expect it to be like that. Help! It's
Not Joshua.
Joshua!
It's not fucking Joshua.
He's just sitting there. Freaky for reals. I agree. Speaking of freaky, we have
Freaky.
one last story. This one's a creepypasta.
I'm so excited.
I'm so sad that we're
I know,
we're
it's
getting
so
to the
sad that we're almost
end.
done.
Yeah, it was really fun though.
Yeah, I've had so much fun.
Me too. Okay, I think I'll get started, and this one is
Mm.
called A Game of Tag. Okay. Mm. In 2017, a certain video appeared on YouTube. The phone recording presented a busy intersection in a rather large city, probably in the United States. The circumstances indicated that the situation took place during the rush hours on March or April, as people were wearing light coats and some snow was still visible, along with blooming trees and grass. The recording starts with screaming. You can hear distant cries. Few people are seen running, and even from a distance, it is clearly a panic rush, with lots of scuffling and pushing aside. There is a sense of confusion and uncertainty in the air. Among the obscured noises, one clear, "What's going on?" can be heard. The video is good quality, but shaky, as the person holding the phone is trying to get closer to the commotion. Around the 10th second, the chaos starts spreading. Pedestrians are now moving faster, and more people are running. If it wasn't for the crowd on the crossing, some would definitely get hit by a car, as they are reckless and focus on getting as far as they can. The faint sound of police sirens can be heard at the moment. The phone's user is now more or less 40 feet away from the center of the ruckus, getting a nice panorama shot. 2 seconds later, there's a scream somewhere very close. Mass hysteria ensues. When the timer hits 19 seconds, a girl in a green hoodie emerges from the right corner of the screen. She is unnoticed by the camera person. The crowd is thinner where she appeared, and she easily navigates among the pedestrians. You can see she is somewhere around her early 20s, has long black hair that covers half her face, and seems less distracted than anybody else, holding her hands in her pockets and hunching as if she had back problems. People are now running around her. When she gets closer to the center, a 50-something man in a wool jumper turns in her direction. He says something muffled, and the subtitles below read, "Do you know what's going on?" Before any of the viewers start wondering why this random voice is subtitled, as nothing else is. The girl says something in response, then releases her hand from her pocket and touches the man on the shoulder. The camera notices the sudden movement in the corner and zooms in at the scene where the man starts twitching frantically, as if having a seizure. Something happens to his face as it starts getting red and blistering. 3 seconds later, and the phone owner cries, "Oh my fucking god! Oh fuck! Oh fuck!" as the man falls to the ground with an unnaturally swollen chest. The nearby passersby watch this in fear, only to start screaming and running away. The crowd, now knowing the source of the panic, began spreading, a vast wave of bodies that flooded the street, stopping vehicles. Some people ran past the camera person. The phone catches glimpses of their horrified faces. We can also start noticing other phones recording the commotion. The police arrives, their flickering lights appearing somewhere in the corner. The girl is now in focus. She walks towards another person and touches them. It's a teenage boy who makes choking gestures and starts bleeding from his mouth as his chest bloats to giant proportions. 2 other boys, probably his friends, scream and try and run away, but one is snatched by the girl. He stumbles onto the ground, red and choking blood. The other one cries so loud it can be heard above the noise. Someone, a young woman in the general confusion, bumps into the girl. She falls to the ground, not moving. The girl then proceeds to leap towards every person she is able to. She touches them, and each one ends up the same way. After touching about 4 more people, for a brief second, She looks in the direction of the camera, grinning widely. The video is 1 minute and 4 seconds long, and it has over 6 million views. The comment section consists mostly of WTF and is this real? But many were not really convinced. Some shouted it was fake. There were few who believed it was one of those pranks used to promote new horror movies. And in very bad taste, they added, oh, trolls were joking that they would bang her either way. This was the most popular video of the happening. Overall, there were over 15 original recordings, all shot from different angles and moments. After that incident, the girl in the green hoodie was nowhere to be found. The event received media coverage all over the world, but the fact that people died after being touched was barely mentioned. Most news reports described it as a biological attack organized by terrorists, and that the girl in the green hoodie was using either some kind of gas or syringe filled with toxic chemicals. This blatant lie wasn't overlooked by the internet, as millions of commenters shouted that no gas nor syringe was actually present during the event. Witnesses actually saw that a simple touch would turn a person into a blood-choking red mess. The media, however, refused to accept this explanation and turned a blind eye to the accusations. No real explanation was given to the death as well. According to medical authorities, the victims had been dead before any help arrived. For a few days, only a range of symptoms were presented to the public: skin lesions, obstruction of the lungs, eye inflammation, etc., as the official cause of death is still unknown. However, 2 days after the incident, a post was published on an anonymous message board. The creator claimed to be one of the morgue attendants that was examining the bodies. They felt obliged to tell the truth about the condition of the bodies, but were shut down by their supervisors in order to not spread panic. They explained that the cause of death was asphyxiation caused by severe pulmonary injuries, which explained the bleeding and swollen chest. OP, the original poster, expressed their shock, as they had never seen such amount of damage caused in such a short time. They also added that the aforementioned victims were exposed to aflatoxins. Aflatoxins are cancerous chemicals often found in corn, walnuts, or peanuts, to name a few. That, especially when improperly stored, can lead to liver cancer and other horrible things such as a hemorrhage. According to OP, the amount of aflatoxins in the body was 20 times larger than in normal instances of an aflatoxin poisoning, which causes severe damage to their livers. The list of symptoms goes on: throat injuries, internal bleeding, dermatitis, sore and bloodshot eyes, etc. They were all developed to a very serious stage. The effects are similar to being exposed to black mold for a prolonged period of time, wrote the anonymous user, and they never responded to any of the comments. Although people were skeptic, the post gained lots of attention. For a few months, YouTube began flooded with reaction videos and theories. Conspiracy theorists believed that the girl in the green hoodie was a governmental experiment gone wrong, a real-life SCP, or even pestilence, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The girl even gained her own cult following, becoming an internet meme. She was dubbed Rosie, in reference to Ring Around the Rosie, as it was a nursery rhyme about the Black Death. But this was not the first time Rosie appeared on the internet. In 2011, a YouTube video appeared, with a title written in Japanese. This could be Google translated as "Death on the Streets of Japan, Weird Girl Found?", depicting an intersection in a suburban area seen from a 3rd-floor balcony. People are running away and screaming. The camera is focused on the girl in a green hoodie in the middle of the street, monitoring the surrounding chaos. She keeps her hands in her pockets, and this time her face is hidden under the hood. Around her lie bodies, like a macabre version of petals surrounding a flower bud. You can hear the camera person talking with someone next to them. Their voices are pitched to an almost chipmunk-like squeak. You can't make out what they're saying unless you know Japanese. After 2 minutes of footage, Rosie leaves the scene before the police arrive. At the time, people believe it was fake, as there was never any media coverage of the event. No one knew where it had taken place, nor who recorded this. However, after the incident in 2017, I, the person who remembered the Japanese video, decided to create a subreddit about it. I first encountered the green-hooded girl, aka Rosie, video yesterday and couldn't shake off the feeling of deja vu. I searched my old YouTube playlist and found an old Japanese video from 2011, link below. I'm certain that this is the same girl even though you can't see her face. The hoodie is the same. I want to know if these are related somehow. Does anybody have any information regarding any of these videos? Has someone ever seen this girl before? The first response appeared 2 days later. When I first saw that video, I was freaked out because I had a very similar experience 2 or 3 years ago. I was sitting on a bench in the park. There wasn't many people and walking, jogging, etc. I was on my phone, waiting for a friend. But when I raised my head, I noticed a girl in a green hoodie. She bypassed me without any interest, and I only remembered her because she had a big smile on her face, which I thought was cute at the time. After that, I stopped paying attention, but a few minutes later, I heard a scream. I ran to see what happened and found an older guy laying on the ground with a really red face and a swollen chest. I thought he choked on something, so I called 911. It took them some time to get here. Besides, I was scared right out of my mind at the time, so I can't remember if the girl was even there. But seeing all the bodies on the video reminded me of that guy, and the girl that passed me by with a smile on her face. If that's the same girl, I think I'll go mad. She would have touched me if she wanted to. The post gained a lot of replies, but one was more interesting than the others. The user shared a blurry photo of 2 dead horses near a fence, their barrels swollen with patches of red skin in between the fur. They were positioned in a way that you couldn't see their faces, but I could imagine their eyes were bloodshot. The user wrote, "I live in a family farm on the outskirts of France, where we breed horses. Over 5 years ago, we found 2 of our mares dead, just like this. We thought it was some wild animal, as we live close to a forest, but there were no bite or claw wounds. We called a vet. He did an autopsy and claimed that the horses had a severe case of mold poisoning, and we should check our stables as quick as possible. Our stables are well maintained, but we check every nook and cranny just in case. Not even a speck of mold. Besides, there were several other horses in the paddock, healthy and unharmed. For years, I believed the 2 dead ones had to have eaten something toxic, until I saw the video of YouTube with Rosie, the green-hooded girl. I couldn't believe my eyes because the victims had the same symptoms as our mares back then. Then I found the post of the autopsy technician who described the cause of death: asphyxiation from severe black mold exposure. Fucking mold exposure. I don't know if she killed my horses, but the symptoms were exactly the same. There's a path next to the paddock, right near the fence where our horses were found. People were horrified after seeing the photo. You can kill a man and no one bats an eye, but animal cruelty is fortunately less tolerated on the internet. Many hypotheses appeared before someone posted another video. He wrote an introduction in broken English, but I managed to make it out in the general sense. So apparently, OP used to work at a bar, and some night, while on the shift, he heard screams and gunshots coming from outside. He was too scared to check as it was a really nasty neighborhood. And after about 10 minutes, everything went silent. The next day, he and his boss checked the video surveillance. I watched the footage he uploaded. In the dim glow of the entrance lighting, 2 men ran across the street. One disappeared from the shot, but the other one was quickly snatched by someone whose face was hidden under a hoodie. The captured man twitched erratically before falling on the ground, motionless, and the hooded figure quickly followed the one who escaped. It was dark. The footage had very low frame rate and was really bad quality, but many agreed, me included, that the attacker was rather short for a man, didn't use any weapons, and was wearing something resembling a zip front sweatshirt of uncertain color. What really bothered me was the mention of gunshots. As it was CCTV footage, no sounds were recorded. But if someone was shooting, Rosie, if it really was Rosie, didn't seem to be affected in any way. Over the span of few months, my subreddit has grown over 3 times in size. People shared their own experiences and posted photos and videos of what they found. There were a few who decided to make YouTube documentaries about Rosie, based on all the uploaded material. There was a lot to find. We received video recordings from airports, stores, or streets all over the world. The number of photos depicting dead, swollen bodies was remarkable. Some people claimed to spot Rosie, even taking pictures inconspicuously, but in most cases they were a false alarm or faked. Theories started popping up like mad. Even Rosie's popularity grew. She received a lot of fan art, very often disturbing in more ways than one. I think she is misunderstood. Maybe that smile is fake and she is really suffering. I want to help her. One of the users wrote that and received a really quick reply. You're a fucking idiot, you know that? But what really shook me up was a photo that was posted about 5 months after I created my subreddit. The user described it in only 1 sentence. I didn't make it. The photo presented Rosie from behind, without her hood on, her hair hanging from her shoulder as she was leaning against a brick wall. At her feet lay a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, probably of Middle Eastern descent. He was curling up, as if trying to hide it inside himself, and was looking at Rosie with sheer terror in his eyes, his face red from crying. There was no background story to this. No one could recognize the place nor the boy. People who clearly didn't read the post started accusing the one who posted it for just staying there and taking pictures, and were reminded to read the descriptions first. The photo stayed in my mind for a long time. The boy's face haunts me to this day. I quickly connected the dots and began my own investigation. I started posting videos of me, trying to solve the mystery of Rosie. I tried to dig information about her real name, origins, and possible relatives, but to no avail. I contacted police departments in countries Rosie was reported in. Despite evidence I presented, she was never caught or even seen. In a Skype interview with a police officer who witnessed the 2017 incident, he said, "We kept hearing about a girl in a green hoodie, but we never found such a person. No personal information, no address, nothing. We sent police notice all around the country. Whoever she was, she disappeared without a trace." Despite my best efforts, I wasn't able to find anything. It seemed as if Rosie came up from nowhere and could appear and disappear wherever and whenever she pleases. Sometimes when I check all the evidence, I start doubting myself. Blurred photos, easily manipulated and staged videos, accounts of people that might be lying or simply gullible. I might be up to something, but maybe it is all a wild goose chase and I need to stop believing in everything I see on the internet. But I can't stop worrying. All the videos and written accounts of the people described locations that were remote or barely inhabited. The 2017 video was actually the first time Rosie was seen in a more crowded, populated space. my goodness, we made it! That was the end of my last creepypasta, and that was called A Game of Tag.
That one was really good too.
It was. That was really disturbing because
Mm,
it adds a level of internet mystery, but the amount of like incidents and events just make it just feels kind of real, you know, like this is something you would stumble upon on the internet.
right.
So
It's
scary.
definitely like it is definitely sounds like something like a trend thing that we would see nowadays for sure.
Right? It's like it's kind of like Slenderman, but like with real accounts. Like I feel like in this story it's described as such a phenomenon like Slenderman, but as if he was real and there were
Mm,
actually children going missing and stuff like that leading to Slenderman. So
yeah, I
interesting.
liked it.
But yeah,
I
that
wonder,
was
did anyone have any favorites from tonight?
yeah. Anything that you felt was most memorable? If not, that's okay. Just let us know if you got scared or not. Very important to know.
True, true.
I don't know if I have a favorite, but
I know, I don't think I do either.
yeah, I'm glad we chose these ones. I don't know, they were all really good. I'm glad that you thought they were good. They were all paw and hoof picked,
I know
and
Myxie and I spent like the
sturdy.
past 2 days like digging through each area to find like good stories for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. Maybe we can do something else.
It was really fun.
Maybe in the future. Because I know that with me and Lifen, we do really enjoy horror stuff. So down the road, it's really not exclusive to it being Halloween week, Halloween, you know? We're still gonna keep at it.
Mm, if it involves me, it's probably something scary.
So true. But yeah. Mm, we hit 2:30. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that is really good.
Yeah, and we could. I don't know who to rate it. I have quite a few
I know, I
people.
have a lot of people on right now. We have
Me
Kronk,
too.
I have
I do
40,
wanna. Oh
and
yeah,
then
40.
Bunny.
They're so sweet. I wanna read them both. They're always nothing but kind to
I
me.
know.
But yeah, what are you guys thinking? Maybe we could read Kronk because I feel like it's been a while since I've rated Kronk. It's been
Mm-hmm.
so long. And they're making such cute emotes. It would be such a good cleanse from the horror.
I know. It would be.
But yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. I'm so happy that you joined me.
Yes, I'm so happy you invited me.
Of
It always
course.
means a lot when you guys invite me to scary things.
Yes, you heard it here, folks. Invite Lifen to your creepy stuff, or just in general. Lifen's so awesome. And
So this
because,
makes me.
oh, thank you. We're waiting on that PC era, but that does not mean Lifen is off the table. Like, you heard it right here, folks. You should nab Lifen as a guest for your stream. But yeah. Um, thank you everybody for joining us. I know this is definitely something different than what I've done on my
Thank
channel.
you.
But I hope you liked it. I hope we can do something else like this in the future. I'm kind of counting
Mm-mm.
it as that long awaited script reading stream. So maybe starting next month we can start working towards a new community goal. I'll have to think about that. But yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing night, amazing day, and stay safe.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, here, let me pull up our raid messages. Oops. Raid 2, this
Let
if
me actually copy
one.
them this time. I
Oh
always
my gosh.
forget.
No worries. And let me just like stop raids for an hour. It's something you can add to your little stream manager and it helps so much for
Thank you for coming, Suki. It's always a pleasure to see you in chat anywhere.
Yeah, Suki, you're so sweet. I'm glad you enjoyed. I do want to hear about your favorite creepypasta that was low-key plagiarized and ripped from the internet,
I would
but
love to hear it,
yeah, me
personally.
too. I think if you've known it for so long and like it's your favorite, then it's definitely notable. So I'm excited. And yeah, if any of you have any recommendations, please feel free to share them with me or with LIFEN. We do have a Discord, so LIFEN has a Discord too, and like here's mine, so we can just talk about it there, anywhere. Oh no, Aethan,
No, we're
wait.
missing Ace.
It's okay, Aethan. The VOD will be up. I'll definitely upload it to YouTube. I think it would be fun. But yeah, thank you so much. Sorry you missed it, Aethan. I hope you had a good time at work. We're going to be rating Kronk. Let me pull up the rate. I'll start it up. But yeah, please do join us because Kronk is awesome. And all of
Honk
you
is
are
so sweet,
awesome.
always.
Thank you so much again. And I'll see you next stream, okay? Stay safe. Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.
Okay, and then I'll end our stream.